Hello everyone, Hyper here, and I'm finally back recording a new video. I know it's been a while, but with Antorus coming out next week and the Mythic coming out in 2 weeks, I thought this was a good time to answer the most commonly seen question on Twitter, Discord, Reddit, wherever you read DK stuff. Which spec will be better going into the next raid? Now this question gets asked before every single raid because this is when the new tiers come out, new trinkets come out, all the changes are made. And I typically don't make any predictions because if I'm wrong, like weeks into the tier, someone will be commenting on my video or DMing me on Discord that, I said something wrong and it actually was the other thing. Well, this time I'm taking the chance. Even though I know it will happen, I'm taking the chance. I will make a prediction on which spec is better going into Antorus. So this morning, I woke up thinking that Frost will be hands down better once everyone got their 4-piece. Then I got home, got ready to record this video, went on MMO Champion real quick to check out the news, and I saw the blue post. They nerfed the Frost tier bonus while they buffed the Unholy one. In case you don't know what the tier 21 set bonuses do, here's just a quick rundown. So for Frost, we have the 2-piece, which increases our Howling Blast and Obliterate damage by 15%. Our 4-piece is when you deal Frost damage, you have a chance to deal 210% extra weapon damage, which is also Frost, by the way. Now for Unholy, we have the 2-piece, which is Death Coil causes the target to take 35% of the direct damage dealt over 4 seconds. Our 4-piece is Death Coil has a 20% chance to deal damage a second time, so you basically just duplicate the spell. What were the changes made to these? Well, for Frost, they nerfed the 4-piece from 420% weapon damage to 210%. This is basically a 50% nerf of the overall damage that the 4-piece does. For Unholy, our 2-piece was buffed to 35% from 15%. Going into the next raid, the tier bonuses were going to make or break which spec was going to be better. Looking at the trinkets, most of them proc fire damage, so that doesn't benefit from Frost or Unholy Mastery. The only one that actually procs shadow damage, it has versatility as its static stat, which isn't great for Unholy. The other big thing that could have influenced which spec was going to be better was boss design. Basically, how punishing are the mechanics in a raid? If you have very, very high movement, and melee constantly have to move out of the boss's range, Unholy was always going to be better, because we have our pet doing damage, and we have our dots sticking away. Whereas if you're Frost and you have to move out of the boss's range, all you can really do is Howling Blast, and you have the Frost Fever ticking on the boss. But that's kind of a small damage percent. Unholy, Outbreak, and Virulent Plague, does most of our damage when it comes to single target. Now, of course, with higher gear, Dark Arbiter will take over that spot, but you can still find a window to fit in those 15-20 seconds where you can stay in melee range to make the most of your DA. For Frost, on the other hand, we have Obliteration. Obliteration is not really a huge damage source. It kind of boosts our damage a little bit, but most of our damage comes from having the high uptime on the boss and constantly smacking him with the Obliterates and Frost Strikes. So, what is the bottom line going into next tier? Will Unholy be better or will Frost be better? I still believe Unholy will be better. This morning, as I said, I thought that Frost will actually make a comeback and will become the dominant spec once everyone gets the new 4-piece. Which of course would have meant that on progress, or at least the first few weeks until you get your 4-piece, you would be Unholy, and then once you got 4-piece, you would swap over to Frost just because of the damage difference. But after these balance changes were made, I would put my money on Unholy. We have better trinkets, we scale really well, boss design doesn't really affect us too much as Unholy, whereas Frost movement kind of wrecks our damage. And the trinkets don't seem like they will make much of a difference. The only high impact trinket I can see right now is the Legendary, which is obviously going to be 1000 item level with a shit ton of stats on it. That trinket potentially has the chance of benefiting Frost more than Unholy, but still overall, I think Unholy just has more things going for it going into the next raid. I would love to hear some feedback from you guys. What do you think will be the better spec going into this next raid? Which one do you want to be the better spec going into the next raid? Because I assume that most of you have one of your DPS weapons leveled close to 75 and the other one is kind of lagging behind. I personally really wanted Unholy to stay dominant just because I put so much work into it. I'm really comfortable with the playstyle and I also really enjoy the playstyle. But I wouldn't mind if Frost made a comeback, especially if it could be used on certain bosses. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.